Sorry, you can see I'm very sweaty.
Yeah, fine.
I'm in the winery right now, and we're still processing. So
Wow.
it's been a very busy day. Will be a long night, but that's okay.
Yeah. Thank you so
The
much for making the time. It was
It's
only when
okay.
we were halfway through organizing this, I said to Kelvin, shit, they're going to be in the middle of harvest. But so
Yeah.
I really appreciate that you made time for us.
No, that's no problem at all. The season, well, I mean, the season so far has been fantastic.
Great.
The the pressure has come on, excuse me, a little bit this week with the whites. So we picked Mosswood Chardonnay last Friday, and then Sauvignon Blanc on Tuesday, and then Mosswood Chardonnay again Wednesday, Ribbon Vale Chardonnay today, and then we'll pick Mosswood Semillon tomorrow.
Brilliant. And
So
the blokes, I'm hearing from Victoria that they've had a hell of a time because
mm,
the rain hit them right on the week they thought they would be harvesting. This is with reference to Beechworth. I haven't
yeah,
heard about the general Victorian area.
mm,
So some of them have decided to take it off immediately and drop the rest of the they're all over the place. So
yeah,
it's been a bit difficult for them to give us I guess, put a finger on the pulse as to the
yeah.
quality of it all.
Well, and South Australia, they had a big rain event in South Australia on Saturday.
Uh-huh.
Wasn't quite as big as they were originally forecasting, but
Mhm.
I think Clare Valley got 84 mils on Saturday.
Yeah.
McLaren Vale had, I think, 30. So I think hopefully for McLaren Vale, it's still a little bit like it's still early, so it's not
Mhm.
too much of a problem.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it's not ideal at all.
Yeah.
We so here we're pretty much bang on average in terms of the season we're having. So median median harvest date on Mosswood Chardonnay is the 1st of March, and that's what it was this
Brilliant.
year. Um,
So
so
no nasty surprises then.
no, not yet. No, so we
That's
had
great.
yeah, about 2 weeks ago we had a 3 mil rain event, but that was fine. It's
Yeah.
it's been it's been warm without being too hot,
Right.
um, and everything's just ripening up beautifully.
Awesome.
Cabernet is probably at about 12 Beaumet.
Okay.
We'll get a proper number on that on Monday. So we'll sample everything, the whole vineyard on Monday.
Right.
And
And then we'll
that'll,
take a view.
yeah. So I think we're still 3 weeks away from picking Cabernet at this stage.
Okay.
Um, at the very earliest 2.5.
Mm.
So um, we're cruising along.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, and Chardonnay wise, it's been a fantastic season, and crops have been really solid, which is nice.
Mm.
So off our old vines here, which are 50 years old this year, we got our second biggest crop for the last 13 years. So
It's amazing.
um,
And
yeah,
quality is holding even at that volume.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's just,
Um,
that's amazing.
so I mean, we got 6 tons per hectare, which is, that's still, not amazing numbers, but for
Mm.
old vines,
Yeah.
it's pretty
Yeah.
solid.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, we're really pleased. If we could have 4 or 5 more weeks of warm, dry weather, then
It'd
I'll
be
be really,
perfect.
really pleased. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I reckon the whole world's ready to taste wine after the week we've all had. So
Yeah.
let's jump in. The Mosswood Semillon. The Mosswood Semillon, I remember a century ago being the very first wine I was ever shown
Mm,
from Mosswood. And
hmm
being a South African who drinks a lot of Semillon, it was something I'll never forget because the quality of it reminded me so much of the very, very good Stellenbosch producers,
hmm
thinking of things like Bukkenhoutsklof, although that's
hmm
probably Franschhoek and not Stellenbosch, but that sort of maritime, climate kind of quality. And so your Semillon is something that I've followed religiously ever since, so a very, very long period of time. And it's been one of the wines that has steadfastly remained a benchmark in the Australian spectrum for me.
Mm.
And certainly no disappointments here. Maybe what's really cool about this one, and maybe you can walk us through this 22, is its approachability at such a young stage. For me tonight, it's showing quite a measure of fatness, but the line of acid is still pristine, which says that probably it's going to be great for quite some time to come.
Yeah. Yeah, look, thank you very much, Robert. It's it's a variety that we love making, and the vines have been on the property since the very beginning, and so we've been refining the style over a very long period of time. What you talk about there in terms of generosity and fruit forwardness and intensity, so that's a real key pillar for us in making this wine. Allowing the fruit to go into that pear, fig, honey, that sort of generous fruit spectrum is really important for us, because we feel that that's what sets this wine apart from, say, many of its Hunter Valley colleagues, where you don't have that same fruit intensity and fruit depth.
No. And so in fact, a lot of the Hunter stuff takes yonks to come around. I mean, it's great eventually, but you don't get this early voluptuousness about it. In fact, it's quite linear and can be. I mean, I adore what the guys at the Mount Pleasants and the Turrells of the world are doing there. But certainly the 22s from the Hunter now would not be sort of enveloping you quite as generously as this is tonight.
Yeah, and look, you touch on the ageability of Semillon, and that's something that I feel, at least in the Australian market, is somewhat underappreciated. It's certainly our view that this wine shows at its best after at least 8 years in bottle. You start to get a real improvement of the mouthfeel. So very viscous sort of texture, and that the fruit tends to soften a little bit, and you get that length, which is there at the moment, but it's showing as vibrant
Maybe
primary fruit.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Whereas a lot of that turns into more apricot, some of your more poached fruit flavors, and just touching on the season 22. So slightly warmer season than we're going through at the moment, but a really good season nonetheless. And so really achieving ripeness in this was really comfortable for us. And we did nothing unusual or special in the winery. It followed very much the same tried and tested techniques that we've used on that wine for a very long period of time. And so that is hand-picked fruit, whole bunch pressed in the winery, fermented in stainless steel tank. There's no oak influence in this. There's no malo. It's purely a fruit expression, looking for real elegance and delicateness in the final wine.
Yeah. No, awesome. Let's look at these two Chardonnays. I've always been a massive lover of the Vale vineyards. And I was saying to Tony, who you might remember, he and his wife and a couple of others did a tour with you guys. Were so generous. It's either you or Hugh or Tristan were getting married the very next day, and we didn't know that, but you agreed to let us loose in the cellar door. And I've always felt a little bad about that, because you were so generous, and whoever helped us that day, and you let us loose in the cellar, and I said, choose something. And the Vale Chardonnay, one with a bit of age on it, was the one that I picked, because I've always been really fascinated in the last 10 years or so as to the speed of development of those vines, the way they are tracking their own set of characteristics. I think from me as a marketer, it's quite hard for me to sell Ribbonvale as uh, an equal sibling to the estate, but I really
Mm,
think certainly in the last few years it's there. There's no question
mm,
about it. In fact, I'll be very surprised if one day the pricing of these two don't get a lot closer to each other, such as the quality of this Ribbonvale. I mean, 95 plus from Advocate, Wine Advocate, is certainly not shabby at this sort of price point at $59. Oh, incidentally, everyone who's online tonight, you were sent a price list. We've got an allocation of 12 more bottles of everything except the Ribbonvale. And anyone who orders tonight will get a further 10% off those prices if you email me before midnight. It's as a special benefit to those who've actually shown up on the call. Nobody else is going to get that offer tonight. So let's talk about these two. You mentioned that this vintage, the Ribbonvale came off after the estate Chardonnay, and is
yeah,
that normally the track as it happened
yeah, yeah.
traditionally?
So, yeah, absolutely. So, as it happens, that the 2026 Rivendell Chardonnay is in the press right now.
Right.
So it's quite coincidental that we're talking about it. But
Yeah.
yes, so Ribbenvale, for anyone unfamiliar, we purchased that vineyard in 2000, and it's located 2 kilometers south of Mosswood, so
Mhm.
very very near to us geographically, but substantially different in terms of microclimate
Right.
and also topography. And
Yeah.
so, Rob, you touched on the later ripening of Chardonnay at Ribbenvale, and that is definitely the case. So it's generally at least 1 week later than Mosswood. Can stretch out to 10 days depending on the season, and that's purely because of two reasons. It's slightly higher in altitude, and so it's cooler.
Mhm.
Um, but also it's the topography. It's predominantly south and west facing,
Okay.
whereas the Chardonnay at Mosswood is north and east
Right.
facing, and
Right.
so you get so Mosswood is a warmer site, and pretty simply, warmer site, it
Right.
ripens earlier. Um, it's always been a an important thing for us where when making Mosswood and Ribbenvale Chardonnay that they have their own identities and
Mhm.
they reflect the locations that they're grown on. And so so what that means is for Ribbenvale Chardonnay, it being cooler, it shows more of the for me, more white peach, honeydew melon. Um, there is some, there is definitely some yellow peach, but Mosswood for me is more apricot, um, cashew nut.
Oh, okay. Would I be right in referencing Merceau? Would that
Yeah,
be
yeah.
right? Okay.
When yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. So,
Okay.
yeah, to use an old world sort of comparison,
Yeah, I'm a
I
bit
think that's
scared to
very fair.
mention that to New World winemakers. They throw rocks at me sometimes.
No, God, no, not me. No, 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 no. Um,
Um,
but and so in terms of handling in the winery, we handle them pretty much identically. And the rationale behind that is that we think that what we do to it in the winery gives it the best chance of reflecting the site in which it's grown. So
okay.
we're using high quality oak, 50% new oak, full malolactic fermentation. So we're looking for plenty of flavor intensity, plenty of flavor depth, and really good length, but also lively acidity. To make that wine really vibrant and approachable young. But once again, Ribbenvale, we're really confident that it will age,
Yeah.
and we know it does.
I remember talking to Jeff Grossett the one time about linearity, and he's probably the king of that descriptor in the Australian scene. And I remember him once saying to me that his Rieslings have this kind of sense of geometry that goes from front to back, whereas many others have this circular sense. And I don't know how you feel about that, but Ribbonvale for me has this sort of rounded generosity of mid palate feel,
Yeah.
whereas the estate hyper refined, just extraordinarily detailed, but
Mm.
certainly way more linear than Ribbon Vale.
Yeah.
They are obviously from the same family, but couldn't be more different characteristically.
Yeah, I think part of that comes down to vine age. So
Okay.
we're working with overall younger vines at Ribbonvale,
Hmm.
and so that purity of fruit, that clarity of flavor. It's not quite the same as it is in the old vine.
Yeah,
The old vine stuff that we grow at Mosswood. So,
yeah, yeah.
if we're nitpicking, then that's probably the major difference.
But I would argue that over time that's just going to narrow as
Definitely.
the at an increasingly rapid rate.
Yeah.
That age difference will probably become less and less obvious.
100% agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's yeah, there's no doubt, no doubt.
I'm also loving we're all sitting in Singapore, of course, where it's always hot.
Yeah.
Um, and one of the problems with drinking Chardonnay on the retail scene is it's always too cold. So
Yeah.
I actually put my pack into the wine fridge, which is about 13 degrees, and then took it out half an hour ago. Aircon's about 20 or whatever, but they're at such a good temperature now.
Mm.
Whereas initially, though, the fruit was just a little bit tight, a little bit closed.
Yeah.
I love so much in the wintertime in Europe decanting Chardonnay, and I get really weird looks when I do it in Singapore, and probably rightly because it just gets too warm too quickly. But
Yeah.
this ability to witness the evolution of these two Chardonnays over the last hour has been amazing, really
Mm.
fantastic. And so thank you very much for that. Mate, on the question of wine critics, I just put a little note here halfway through this tonight. Um, I see that Ray Jordan is rating you like really, really strongly on the
Mm.
domestic front. And I really value his insight into Western Australia. And I wanted to ask you, does he have a team of people who write for him, who critique for him, such as Wine Companion is constructed, or is it all his own thing?
No, so to my knowledge,
Mhm.
Ray still does all of his own
Wow. Okay.
reviewing. Yeah, and he's across a lot of wines in Western Australia.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you've read his annual wine guide, but
Yeah.
yeah, he puts a lot of time and effort into that. And
Well, respect to that. The reason
yeah,
why I'm not surprised is his writing is very obviously his writing.
yeah,
And I think of Jancis Robinson, for example, somehow the people who write for her, maybe they have similar palettes, but I have a deep trust for all the people who write for Purple Pages from a
mm,
stylistic point of view. And so
mm,
often when these wine critics, it's just a question of age, right? You can't
mm,
keep drinking everything, although
mm,
I'm giving it a good shot on my end of things.
mm.
But it's such a tricky thing when you've got more people writing for
Yeah.
ostensibly your brand, and it's so that explains why Ray Jordan is showing this sort of consistency of style. Still, he's drinking it all. That's pretty.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the one. So in the Australian market, Halliday has had quite a substantial change in tasters,
Mhm.
reviewers.
Yeah.
There's been quite a lot of upheaval there.
Mm.
Basic. So James doesn't taste anymore.
Mhm.
But Erin Larkin, who now writes for Wine Advocate,
Yeah, she's
she
awesome. I
left,
love
and
her. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
she's
she's
great.
great.
Yeah.
But so it's from my perspective, from a winemaker's perspective. I try not to get too
Involved in it?
invested. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. Because they can pick you up and drop you
Oh yeah.
very quickly.
One bad hair day ruins a whole vintage.
100%,
In fact,
100%.
I was at a dinner just 2 weeks ago, where the theme was when critics disagree, and it was so fantastic because you weren't allowed to bring a wine that didn't have at least an 8 point difference between a limited range of highly respected writers, and
Wow.
it was just fantastic to actually sit
Yeah.
down and taste 8 or 10 bottles that we had that night,
Yeah.
because and when we tasted them, we were equally divided. Uh,
Yeah.
it's a question of palate, it's a question of the day, the food, so many things. But I'm super mindful of just how connected you guys need to be with the critics, and definitely still, even at your rarefied level of winemaking, of brand strength and everything, it's still vitally important.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. And unfortunately, it does swing a little bit on the agenda
yep.
of said critic at the time.
Yeah.
There's been a big push in with a few critics to really promote some alternate varietals in
Hmm.
Australia as being 99 100 point wines. And
Yep. Yep. Where do you go
yeah.
from the 100? That's what keeps me up at night. Once you've got 100, what on earth do you
Yeah.
do? Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know that on the global scene, I've been hearing that a lot of the big wine critics, I'm not going to name anybody, but that there's a conscious attempt to become more conservative
Yeah.
in the final score, and I'm all over that.
Yeah. Yeah.
From certainly from a marketing point of view, I don't like a 100 point of wine. Give me a
Yeah.
96, 97
Yeah.
with a point of view,
Yeah.
and any time.
No, I agree. I agree entirely.
Yeah.
Because now basically, if you at 90 or below is considered a bad wine.
Correct. I was just writing the other day about some Burgundies, and I was saying that I'm a huge fan of a Berghound,
mm,
and Berghound for me still remains extraordinarily rigid, and I believe he's still doing all his own tasting as well. And for
okay.
me as a marketer, you can find a wine that 89 to 91 points. If it's in a certain price bracket, it's going to sell. And
Yeah.
if you translate that into the broader spectrum of wine critics, you don't see that a lot.
No.
You don't see that.
No.
So,
I do find that really,
mm,
a bit baffling.
yeah.
But
But on that note, let's not be too contentious. Let's drink some of the reds. So the
yes.
river,
Yes.
mate, in my sort of dusty past, I remember hearing you guys say, I couldn't find any written reference that there's more Merlot in the Vale Cabernet than certainly in the estate.
Yeah.
By
Yeah. So you're correct in saying that. So there's no Merlot in the Mosswood Cabernet. There
not
is
even a smidge.
No, no, no. So whereas in Vale Cabernet you've got 2.5%. So it's a
Oh,
very
so it's
small.
very little. Oh, I thought
Yeah,
it was significantly more.
yeah.
Okay.
No, no, no. So Vale Cabernet, 90% Cabernet, and then you've got a barrel each of Merlot, Malbec, Petit Verdot, and Cabernet
Right.
Franc. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Right. All right.
and you're drinking the 2021. Is that
Mhm.
correct? Yeah. Okay.
We are.
All right. So
Unfortunately sold out. Guys, just there's a possibility of two or three bottles that appeared on the back end in an audit this afternoon. So if anybody falls in love with this Ribbon Vale, or if I can persuade Kelvin to dig deep and find some more in his warehouse, I'll ask him to let you know. Because this was as an initial offer to our database was spectacularly successful, and I can understand why. Maybe you can talk us through a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So this wine has been going from strength to strength, particularly over the last sort of 6 or 7 years. The proportion of Horton clone Cabernet in that now is up to 90%, where when we first purchased that vineyard in 2000, it was predominantly the SA126 clone. And so
Right.
without being too nerdy about this, the Horton clone gives you your classic Margaret Cabernet characters, which are blackcurrant, cassis, blue fruits, that sort of thing. Whereas the SA126 clone has more leafy aromatics and also a firmer tannin structure.
Right.
And so when we first purchased the vineyard, we maintained the existing clonal composition. However, we quickly realised that the firm tannin was making the wines really unapproachable, particularly
Mhm.
young. They
Mhm.
tended to develop really nicely, but
Mhm.
in their sort of first 5 to 7 years, they were really firm and quite robust. And so it's been a project over the last 26 years. We've planted Horton clone Cabernet there, and also grafted some of the existing vines over to the Horton clone. And so now that grafting work is now complete, and so the Horton clone is dominant, and it really reflects in the prettiness and intensity on the palate of the red and blue fruits in
Right.
this. And this wine is now really showing its pedigree, I think.
It's such a grown up. It really, really is. I mean, the tannic structure is just seamless and integrated. And in my darker moments, I wonder if you shouldn't just call it Ribbonvale and let it loose on its own, because it's so great
Yeah,
as its own brand. I think it's
yeah,
phenomenal. I keep saying the same thing to Nick Farr about his Illawarra estate, where
yeah.
it's just a smaller operation that he's had in Geelong, and it's our most popular wine from by far, which
Really?
is extraordinary at a fraction of what his top end gear costs. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's really, I think I'm so jazzed to have tasted this. Kelvin, if you online, can you tell us, do you have any more of the 21? Because Jenny told me there is some. Anyway, I'll text him afterwards.
Mm,
I would imagine that there would be 22 on its way to him. So
yeah,
maybe we can offer that
yeah.
in the offer later.
And to be honest, I would say this, but the 22 season was better than 21. So 21 was pretty mild.
Okay.
So that wine is quite pretty and delicate, whereas the 22, being warmer season, it has a bit more intensity, a bit more oomph. So I it's my
So
personal preference is the 22.
like a bigger footprint generally,
Yeah,
flavor wise.
for
Kel,
sure.
Kel, are you there now? You keep disappearing. Have you got some more
Sorry,
Ribbonvale for us?
I've got. Have I got what?
Ribbonvale Cab,
Well, not the next vintage. It should be on its way in.
the 22. All right. We'll show it to everybody when it lands then. That's great. All right. Thanks for that.
No worries.
And then onto the estate. So amazing. It really is. I can't say
Thank you.
enough about this.
Yeah, so that's our 50th anniversary Mosswood Cabernet, that one. So our 50th release from an exceptional season. Still coming off the original vineyard that was
Mhm.
planted here in '69.
Yeah.
And really still showing all the classic Mosswood Cabernet hallmarks. So
I wanted to ask you, often when my friends drag me to blind tastings, because I always fail, I can't get beyond is it red or white. But one of the things that I look for in Margaret River Cabernet is that phenolic tracer of eucalyptus, and I don't see it at all in your wines. Now,
mhm.
first question, is it an urban legend that it's a function of the trees and not so much the soil
Mhm.
around Margaret River? And if that's the case, do you have any around yours? Because I don't recall. I'm pretty sure there are eucalyptus trees on the
Yeah,
property. And
yeah. No, there definitely are. So to answer question one, my personal view on it is that it's very likely from the actual eucalyptus leaves themselves.
okay,
Any vineyard planted near to the trees that is either machine harvested or hand harvested but not sorted properly is very
right,
likely to end up with some pretty potent leaves in it.
okay,
So it is a very deliberate thing that we do not have any of those green characteristics showing up in our
yeah,
wines.
yeah, yeah,
So and we achieve that by two ways. So the first one is having fully flavor ripe fruit. So our tolerance for the methoxypyrazines, any of the green characters, is nil.
yeah,
And so we won't pick the fruit until we've achieved flavor ripeness.
right.
And then to answer your question about the actual potential spoilage from eucalyptus leaves. So
Hmm.
we handpick everything, and then we send it over our vibrating sorting table, and we have 6 people picking anything that's not individual
Right.
berries out of
Yeah.
it. So we have the cleanest possible fermentations, and so there is no risk of anything tarnishing the pure fruit product.
And no whole bunch component, so it's fruit only. Okay, so
Correct. Yeah. So
that
it's
probably also goes a long way to eliminate that flavor profile. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. So it's all destemmed. So there's no, you've already got enough tannin in the skins of Cabernet.
Yeah.
You don't need to be
100%.
adding any stem or stalk
Yeah.
to further increase that tannin profile.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's our take on it anyway.
Well, I mean, I think that's the distinguishing factor for me in your Cabernets is this clarity of spirit is so different from pretty much. I'm trying to think of a similar. Oh, things like Fraser's Gallop to a certain degree has that kind of purity, but in a different kind of character profile. And also, it's just such a thrill after the number of bottles of Italian and French and German, Spanish wine that I throw down the sink or have to analyze because the corks are still no bloody good. It just, it drives me insane.
Yeah.
The Stelvin is so fantastic. I was opening everything this morning and I thought, God, this is fabulous because every single bottle is the way you expect you want it to taste in the beginning. It makes such a difference. I was in Barcelona for the wine festival earlier this month, and earlier in February, and they're now talking about a whole new composite of cork that can do everything that old cork used to do. But I think I've been on this planet long enough now to say, give me Stelvin and just stop the debate. It's just so good. It really is so great.
Yeah. Look, I mean, everything that we make goes under the Stelvin. It's for us, it's a no-brainer. When there are already enough uncontrollables for us once the wine leaves the property. To know that we've got a 99.99% success rate on these things. To rule that out, that makes a huge difference to how
honestly,
we can sleep.
I think it supports your brand. I really do. I remember a couple of years ago, someone brought an 86 Mosswood in cork and Stelvin to a dinner, and I can't tell you the difference. I haven't had much of an opportunity to do that on a regular basis, and the Stelvin was so much better than the cork. It really was phenomenal.
Yeah, and look, to reassure anyone that's listening about the way that wines evolve under the screw cap. Certainly, there's no doubt, at least in our experience, that the Mosswood wines age more slowly under the Stelvin.
Yeah.
However, for me, I'm really confident that they're going to reach the same point that the best cork will. It'll just take longer. Yeah.
With no underlying risk. I mean, the number of, in fact, I think it's worse than, there was an audit done years ago by someone in the Hunter with one of the big consulting firms, and they came up with a number of 9.8% of all, certainly in the time period 1990 to say early 2000s, and 9.8% were corrupted from cork taint. But the disturbing thing was only 3% of that 9% ever got sent back. So the brand has this terrible reputation, and it's not there. There's just no reason for it. And I've done a fair bit of Hunter, Stelvin, and cork over the years. You just got to wait a little longer. We've all on our herb medications. We're all going to live longer than the previous generation. It's fine. It's worth waiting. That's
fine. No, I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
It's and the point that you raised there about brand damage associated with your wine being judged, because you only have a limited number of opportunities to impress a customer, and if your wine, through no fault of your own, is faulty, that's what some customers will remember you for, and they will never buy your wine again.
Forever and a day, absolutely. Absolutely.
Can I just chime in, Robert?
Yeah, man.
Silly question. Is Stelvin scalable to large format?
It is. So our magnums we bottle under Stelvin. So they go down the bottling line in the same way that our 370 that our 750s and 375s do. Larger than Magnum? Yes, no, it definitely is, because there are independent. My wording's wrong here, but you can get a not on a bottling line, but you can get a Stelvin capper.
Oh, so you do it manually instead of
that you just do manually. Yeah, exactly right. So yeah, that was a big change for us when our Magnums went under screw cap as well,
Right.
because for anyone that bought them up until probably 2012, no, maybe later 14, we were they were all under cork, and we had to wax them by hand as well. So I had to you cork them by hand and wax them by hand.
And the number of bottles that I've ruined with bloody wax floating in the glass afterwards, the whole thing's just a total pain in the ass. So that's amazing. So mate, my philosophy has always been that a Magnum is about 2.5 times longer to hit the same maturation curve as a 750. So Stelvin, what happens? Because is it like double, 5 times longer?
Look, I think it. So, if I put my scientific hat on, so the rationale behind a Magnum taking twice as long to age is purely that you've got the same oxygen headspace, but a larger volume of wine, and so therefore, your oxidation is going to occur at half the rate than it would in a 750. And so I'm pretty confident that it would be, it would age twice as slowly than your traditional 750.
Well, mate, if ever you feel like, in the interests of science and research, doing an event like that in Singapore or doing something similar online, I'd love to nag Kelvin to get some stocks from you and actually do that. I think it would be fascinating. I think our clients would love the opportunity to do that with you. So I can persuade Kelvin to agree to let us do that with him. I'll nag him about that.
Hugh's got to send us big format stock first.
I am due to come up to Singapore soon, so
Really?
Kelvin and I will need to talk.
All right, please do that, because I can account for a very enthusiastic audience to taste those side by side, because I've got to say that those 86s that way were electrifying for me. It gave me so much insight by being able to taste the cork and the Stelvin together. It really was a great experience. So let's top this off, guys, with the Botrytis Semillon.
Yes.
I know it's a smaller jar. I apologize, but I figured that you might want to go back and do a retrospective of the other wines later. The note from, I think it was Erin Larkin on this, was she picked up a stylistic change in this 2024 Botrytis Semillon, and she said what she mused on was, is it a function of vintage, or is it a stylistic change in direction that you're taking? And she didn't seem sure about that. So I've got you. I'm going to ask you.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So my answer to that would be, first of all, that no, there was no deliberate stylistic change.
Okay.
And definitely it was a function of the vintage. So so 24 was a hot vintage here in Margaret River. And so the flow-on effect for a Botrytis wine is that we picked that probably a month earlier than we would have in a normal season, in a previous season. And so your flavor accumulation therefore occurs over a shorter period of time. And so I think there's a freshness and vibrancy to this wine at a younger age than, say, the 18 had. But look, I'll be intrigued to see how it ages. I'm confident that it will age well. But to be honest, we don't have enough experience. So we've made 6 vintages of the Botrytis Semillon since 2011. And so that's the oldest one that we've got. The 11 I had at a function recently in Sydney, and it's evolving really nicely. So I'm confident that this will do the
So
same.
how's the 11 showing acid-wise? Is it showing a certain framework that it's still hanging off, or is it
Yeah,
okay?
it's retained. So it's retained that acid, and so
Right.
you're tasting that 24 that you are now. You've got a mix of you've still got some primary
Right.
fresh characters in it. So that they're somewhat evolved and diminished in the 15-year-old wine. It's
Right.
more of your sort of stewed fruits, a bit less about the
Right.
bright acidity that you're talking about.
Yeah.
But it's still there. It still provides structure and linearity, to use
Yeah.
use
Yeah.
that word again.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
just with a bit more evolution.
I remember back in the day, the Australian parlance was to refer to it as a sticky. I'm not sure if that's doing it justice. I think
Yeah.
that it has a deftness and an elevation and a lightness about it. It's not just a sticky.
No.
It's a serious dessert wine.
Yeah, and just touching on that, I think it's a really interesting point because to me, sticky, that brings with it connotations of almost sickly sweet sappiness.
Yes, exactly.
Whereas we've always tried to make these wines with a balance between freshness and liveliness, but also it's sweet, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely, but it doesn't need to be sappy.
correct. Yeah, yeah. No.
Certainly, that's front of mind for us when we're making
Yeah.
this wine.
So, mate, I don't want to dominate your night. We've taken 45 minutes from you already. Guys, is there anyone who has questions for Hugh before he goes and deals with the Ribbonvale vintage? No, well, I'm going to finish. Lou's not online. He's traveling. So, in honor of Lou, I will ask the question we usually do. And the question is, what do you drink when you're not drinking Mosswood?
Oh gosh, all right. I try and drink. Very broadly.
Okay.
I'm a big Burgundy fan.
Sure.
Pinot Noir and Chardonnay are what
That's
really
what you're
gets
all
me
about.
excited.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
In more recent times, so over Christmas, I had quite a bit of Barolo. So
Right.
a lot of the Vietti
Hmm.
wines,
Yeah,
which I really
gorgeous.
like.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have aspirations to grow a little bit of Nebbiolo here.
Really? Oh, that's so
Yeah,
cool. Because
just not
the
much, just for
Victorians
fun.
have kind of got a head start on you, right? They're
Uh,
growing so much of it. That'd be
yeah,
amazing. I'd love to see that in Margaret River.
yeah.
Yeah.
Look, it's we're not talking big volumes.
Sure.
Some bit of
Sure.
fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, because it's a variety I've never worked with before.
Right.
It's a variety I enjoy drinking.
Yeah.
And so
I'm told that from a winemaking point of view, it's a bit of a princess,
yeah,
and that it's quite finicky and
yeah.
tricky. But from a marketing point of view, I can't tell you how many people I know in Singapore, and there's a few people on the call tonight who may agree with me, who are moving from Burgundy to Barolo because of the pricing of Burgundy.
Yeah.
And there's a certain characteristic about Burgundy that it references, Barolo. It references Burgundy in some kind of a way. I think that's probably the
Yeah,
best way to put it. Yeah.
I definitely understand both points you've just
Yeah.
made, and I
Yeah.
agree. And yeah, so much of our lives is serious, and for me, this is something that's a bit exciting, could be a bit of fun.
Yeah.
You never know where we'll end up.
Yeah. Well, on that note, thanks so much, mate. Cordially invited. I'm gonna harass Kelvin about that Cork Stelvin thing because
Okay,
it would be fantastic to do that here in Singapore when you're around. Be really good. So
that sounds
thanks
great.
for coming. Everybody, remember you've got your order forms on the delivery note. You need to email me tonight in order to get that discount on the allocation that we have. Otherwise, my shareholders are traveling in Australia, so they don't know, but they'll find out on Monday once I've processed these discounts. So please let me know before then. All right, thanks so much, mate, and the best of luck for the Cabernets. And
Thank you so much.
hopefully see you later in the year.
Thanks
Awesome.
so much.
Sounds great.
Thank
Thank
you.
Cheers,
you.
guys.
So much,
Amazing.
everybody.
Thanks, Rob.
All right,
Bye.
take it
Thank
easy.
you.
Good night.
Night.